Hey, I'm Charles with Rocky Mountain ATV MC. In this video, we're going to show you how to reinstall your Husky or KTM 450 motor back into your frame. You're watching the last video in our KTM and Husqvarna late model 450 dirt bike engine rebuild series. Now, in the other videos, we go through the whole motor and show you how to make all the repairs. So if you need to know how to do any work, or if you're not quite to this point, go back and watch those videos. But in this video, we're just focusing on getting the engine back into the frame and putting all the parts on. So with all that being said, let's get started. To do this job, it's going to be all the same tools you use to remove the motor, but we're adding the torque wrench to it. So this is just common hand tools, sockets, T40 Torx bit, our spring puller, pliers, a screwdriver. Then we have safety glasses, rags, and some rubber gloves. Before you put your motor in, you need to have your bike on the stand. We've removed the swing arm pivot bolt as well as the rear linkage bolt and slid the swing arm back as far as we can. So we're going to start by setting the motor in with the back end first, and then we'll swing the front end into place. So once you have that slid into place, I'm going to move these wires out of the way, and you'll notice the rest of the wires and that slave cylinder, we've tucked everything up out of the way, so we're not fighting any of those. And just since I'm here with this radiator hose, I'm going to pop that on. And then these front two motor mounts, those are lined up pretty well. So I'm just going to take these bolts, I'm going to install them, but I'm not going to tighten them down yet. And I put a little grease on them just to help keep them from corroding. Now we're going to install the swing arm bolt from the right side of the bike, and you'll see you have this notch. It needs to line up with the frame. As you install it, you might have to lift up on the motor and move the swing arm around just a little bit to get it to go through. Then you're going to install the nut on the other side and torque it to 73.8 foot-pounds. Now we're going to slide the linkage into place. Slide this bolt through, and again it has that flat side that needs to line up with the link. And we're going to torque the nut on the other side to 44.3 foot-pounds. Next, we're going to install the throttle body. So I'm going to cut this clip, or the zip tie, and we're going to set this into place. And we've already wiped everything off, made sure it's really clean. Then you have that locating tab on bottom. Make sure that's lined up, and make sure that the boot is popped all the way on. And then we're going to make sure both hose clamps are tight. So we'll start with this one. All right, now we're going to install our countershaft sprocket. Some of you might have undone your chain or loosened up that rear axle, but we've got enough slack. We're going to be able to set ours right into place. All right, so this bolt for the countershaft sprocket, again, we're applying a little Loctite. We're going to torque it to 44.3 foot-pounds and make sure that this washer sits around the collar on the bolt. Next step is to install the push rod. We're applying some assembly lube to it. And that domed side, that's going to go towards the clutch. You have the side with the dimple that's going to face the slave cylinder. And you can set the slave cylinder into position using your new gasket. And the 3 bolts on this, they're going to be 7.4 foot-pounds. We're going to start with these front 2. After that, we're going to install the chain guard. Now some bikes, this guard won't let you torque these ones after the guard's in place, so you might have to torque them ahead of time. All right, next step, we're gonna finish installing the radiator hoses. So this one, we're just gonna tighten the clamp down, and we'll do the same steps for the other hoses. Now we're gonna install our rear brake spring, our spark plug cap, and connect our engine coolant temp sensor. All right, so right here we have a couple of electrical connectors. We're gonna pull those down. And this one is gonna connect to our gear position sensor. So we're just gonna let that sit right there for now. Then we have these wires coming from the stator. We're gonna run these back across this wiring harness to the connectors. So this one should be our crankshaft position sensor. And our stator wires. So we're going to remove this airbox cover. We have two places for zip ties right here and there. And we're just going to feed these zip ties through and poke them up through the other side. And we're just going to loosely install the zip tie for now. And that way when we swing the subframe down, we can still move things around. And we're going to do the same thing on the front. Next up, we have this plastic clip. It's going to retain these wires, and it's just going to go around this hydraulic line. Then we also have a zip tie that we're going to be putting down towards the bottom. All right, now we're going to install the engine hanger bolts on both sides, and these bolts, we're going to apply some blue Loctite to them and torque them to 18.4 foot-pounds. At this point, we can tighten the two original mounting bolts we put in to 44.3 foot-pounds. Once those bolts are tight, we can go ahead and we're going to remove this tie down from the subframe, put the subframe in place. And two things you want to watch out for are the mud flap and that intake boot. And then this intake boot, you want to make sure it seats all the way on the throttle body. And once you hear that boot snap on, then you want to go ahead and tighten the clamp down. Now we can reconnect our sensor and install the subframe bolts. And we're going to torque those bolts to 22.1 foot-pounds with some Loctite. Now we're going to install our crankcase breather hose. We'll connect this to the valve cover and then route this down towards the left side of the shock. There's a little pocket there. We'll stick it right through that. Now we're going to tie the wiring harness down. So I'm just going to tuck these wires where they need to be and use our zip ties. Next, we'll reinstall the frame guards. Now we're going to install the exhaust system. So we have our new exhaust gasket on our flange. We're going to set that into place, tighten the bolts down. After that, we're going to install the header and the muffler, and we're going to tighten the hardware starting from the front to the back. Now we're going to fill up the bike with some coolant. And now we'll fill our bike up with 1.2 liters of oil. At this point, we're ready to reinstall our skid plate, our gas tank. We'll reconnect our battery, then install the seat and our airbox cover. Now that we have everything installed, we're going to go ahead and start up our bike. We're going to bring it up to operating temperature and then shut it off, let everything cool down, and then we can double check our fluid levels. That's all there is to getting your engine back into your late model KTM or Husky 450 dirt bike. If you need any parts for your machine, be sure to get those on our website. Again, we have both OEM and aftermarket parts on there. And if you want to see more helpful content like this, subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.